folks, HR Funk here, back out on the range with not just one, but two pink rifles, and a topic that's very near and dear to my heart. I'm going to be talking about rifles you can use to teach girls how to shoot. Now, if you're wondering why I said this topic is very near and dear to my heart, it's because a few weeks ago, my baby turned 14, which is hard for me to imagine. And for her 14th birthday, she got her first adult rifle. Specifically, she got a limited edition Ruger 1022. We got out to the range shortly after she received it. We did some shooting. She loved it. She shot really well. In fact, I'll put in some video here of the time we were out at the range. Had a tremendous amount of fun. And as much fun as that was, and as much as I enjoyed sharing that experience with her, there was a scintilla of melancholy associated with the occasion. The reason I say that is because I realized the whole time that I'm standing there watching her, seeing her shoot, and seeing her handle an adult rifle, I know my little girl, my baby, is growing into an adult woman. And I'm kind of missing my baby a little bit. And maybe that's the reason I'm out here doing this video today anyway. But it started me thinking about the rifles she used earlier in her life, the rifles she used to learn to shoot. And I thought it was important to maybe do a video where I talked about these rifles and talked about teaching children, not just specifically girls, but I am going to emphasize girls in this video, and teaching them to shoot and what you can think about when you are selecting rifles specifically to teach them to shoot, and other types of guns in general. Now, before I go on with the video, I want to talk about something a little bit more serious. And this is something I have seen as a firearms instructor who teaches Ohioans who want to get their concealed handgun license. The thing that I want to mention is that I have seen women come into my class who have never shot, never handled firearm at all prior to coming into the class, or they've done very little shooting or very little handling of firearms. And these women have literally lived their entire lives with the knowledge that anyone who's bigger and stronger than them can do anything they want to them anytime they want to. Now imagine that, especially you guys out there. Imagine going through your life believing every day as you go out to do your daily routine that if somebody decides they want to assault you, they want to take something from you, they want to sexually assault you, whatever, they can do that because they're physically bigger and stronger. I have a really hard time putting myself in their place and imagining that, but that's literally the fear these women live with every day. And I have watched them going through that firearms training and getting to the point at the end where they are completely loading, handling, shooting, accurately shooting a firearm, and I've watched that fear dissipate. And it's really the most gratifying thing I've ever experienced as a firearms instructor. With all of the training I've done, all of the police officers I've taught, the tactical training, the sniper training, all that kind of thing, the most gratifying experience I've ever had is watching that fear dissipate from someone who now knows they can control what happens to them on a daily basis. It's a truly remarkable thing, and the reason that they've been in that situation is somewhere along the line, either from their parents or from whoever, they kind of got the idea that shooting and firearms weren't really something for girls or women. That was a man's thing or a boy's thing or whatever. And I think it's extremely important, especially with our girls, that we teach them that they can use firearms. In fact, shooting is one of the activities that women can do right alongside men and do just as well as their male counterparts, or even better. And I make that statement as someone who has been trounced on various occasions by female shooters, both at national level competitions and even local level competitions. So I know that women can shoot just as well as men can shoot. So anyway, I'll get off my soapbox now. We'll start talking about the rifles you can use to teach girls to shoot. The first rifle I have is the 760 Pump Master, and as you can see, it is made for a girl. By the way, I don't have a problem letting girls be girls. I don't have a problem with pink rifles. I think it's great. Anything that gets your daughter excited, or your son for that matter, excited about shooting, I think it's fantastic, and if a pink rifle does it, get them a pink rifle. Anyway, The nice thing about air rifles is you can use them for all of the basics, for teaching firearm safety, for teaching basic marksmanship, sight alignment, sight picture, trigger control, all of that type of thing you can do with an air rifle. And as you experienced shooters know, when it comes to marksmanship, there is really no difference between shooting an air rifle and shooting a .50 caliber sniper rifle. The only difference is the range capability and the amount of recoil that you're experiencing. But as far as the basics of firearms marksmanship, it is exactly the same with something like this. In a pinch, you could even use airsoft guns inside your home. You could go down in the basement, hang up a big heavy blanket that would serve as a backstop, and you could actually teach the basics of marksmanship inside. But for my part, this was my daughter's very first rifle. This was the one we taught her to shoot with. It's nice because it is sized for a small child. It is extremely light, so it's easy for them to handle. And even so, when my daughter was very small, when she was 5-6 years old, she could not stand and shoot this particular rifle. So we would rest it for her, teach her about sight alignment, teach her about sight picture. This is nice because it's a pump style air rifle, and the more you pump it, the more powerful it is, but when you're only punching holes in paper, it doesn't take a lot of power. It is the ubiquitous 177 caliber, and it will shoot both BBs and it will shoot pellets. When you load BBs into this rifle, there is a loading gate right here on the side. You can flip that open, fill that full of BBs, and I don't know how many BBs this thing holds, but it's a lot. When you shoot pellets, there is an adapter that slides in, and I'll show you that when we get to the pellet portion of this video. But normally I would fill this thing up with BBs. We would go out, sit down in the backyard, I would rest this for her, I would put a big target up, and I want her to be fairly close to the big target because I want her to experience success early on with shooting. I want the shots to be in the black, I want the shots to be in the X-ring, I want her to feel that success and enjoy shooting. Again, if it's an enjoyable experience, kids will want to keep shooting. If it's something that feels like work, or they don't really like it, or it scares them, or they're shooting something that kicks too hard or whatever, they're not going to enjoy it as much, and they're just not going to want to go back out and do it. So it's important that it be fun. The 760 Pump Master has a fiber optic sight. This is one of the things I really like. Now you might be saying, why do you need a fiber optic sight for a child? Typically children have very good eyesight. Why do they need a fiber optic? The reason is because it helps teach concentration on the front sight, which is what you need to do for accurate shooting. When you're explaining this, even to adults, and you're talking about focusing on the front sight, sometimes that doesn't quite compute. When I've got a big glowing fiber optic right here on the front, and I can say, make sure you're looking at that glowing green dot, make sure the green dot is in the middle of this rear sight notch, and the green dot is in the middle of your target, that helps the child start to learn to concentrate on that front sight. The 760 Pump Master also has an elevation adjustable, that is rear sight, that you can use to dial in your strike of your BBs or your pellets at varying distances. It has a safety in front of the trigger guard, cross bolt safety, so the child can learn to start using those features that are going to be the same with many larger adult firearms later on. And all in all, it's a fairly enjoyable firearm, even for adults to start shooting. So what I'm going to do to prove that point is sit down here in a minute. I'm set up at 30 feet from the target, 10 yards from the target. And I'm just going to do a little bit of shooting with this, partly to relive that experience that I used to have with my daughter, and also just to show some of the accuracy potential. This is a rifled barrel inside the 760 Airmaster. So I'll demonstrate loading it up, pumping it, and shooting it, and this should be fun. Let's take a look. Okay, as I said a couple of minutes ago, firearm safety is one of the great things that you can use the air rifle to teach, and we can start out with using eye protection. You don't usually need air protection for this type of an air rifle, but if you want to teach your children to start using it, obviously you can. At this point, I'm going to take the 760 Airmaster, I'm going to keep it pointed in a safe direction, which this direction over here is, and I'm going to get some number of BBs here. Not going to get too many for this particular demonstration. Drop them into the loading gate. And of course you always manage to drop 1 or 2 BBs on the ground. Close it up. Again, I'm going to keep it in a safe direction. I think we'll pump this up about 5 times. That ought to be fine. I do have a switch at the back of what would normally be the receiver that turns the flow of the BBs on and off. Now, one of the things you have to do is to open this, or use the switch to open this little reservoir right here, and you'll see that it will fill up with BBs, which are now visible in there. And I'll pull back my cocking handle, and notice the cocking handle is magnetic. It now has a BB attached to the front of it, and we're going to push that BB forward into the chamber, sit down at our bench, and we're ready to fire out that first shot. By the way, I can tell you that fiber optic front sight on this rifle really glows. It really makes it easy to see. And the first shot's away. Okay, not the greatest shot that I ever fired in my life, but it's in the black, and if my daughter fires this, I am going to praise her for that. She's got a shot in the black. Again, it's all about helping your child enjoy the experience of shooting. I'm going to go back and shoot a few more with the 760 Pump Master and just see where we end up. Okay, we're pumped up and lined up for shot number 2. And I went for more of a 6 o'clock hold that time, and it looks like I hit a little bit low. Looks like actually might need to see about trying to move that rear sight a little bit over to the right. It is not windage adjustable, but I'll see what I can do here. And we'll get ready for shot number 3. Okay, here we go, shot number 3 with the 760 Pump Master. The trigger on this rifle is probably the one criticism I would have. It is a long, fairly heavy trigger pull, but again, for safety purposes, when you're working with a new shooter, that's probably still a good idea. Just not the greatest thing to help with accuracy. All right, after a little bit of on-the-range gunsmithing, which basically involved pushing that rear sight over a little bit, we managed to put one in the X-ring. If my daughter puts one in the X-ring, I jump up and down, I cheer for her and everything else, and to the point that she yells at me when I come back from rifle matches if I don't have shots in the X-ring. But this is what the rifle is capable of. This is what your child is capable of. And again, I'm shooting from 30 feet here. I would probably have her shoot from maybe 10 feet, because the idea is to give them a positive experience with this rifle. As I said, the 760 Pump Master will also accommodate pellets as long as you use this adapter. As you can see, the pellets are now loaded in to the adapter, and it slides in to the side of the receiver just like that. You have to pull back the cocking handle to bring it over for the first one, and then you push forward so the pellet is chambered. And we'll pump it up and see what kind of accuracy we get with the pellets. And the pellets seem to be hitting a little higher than the BBs. So I'll go back and lower that rear sight and see if we can bring it right down here into the 10 ring. And after a quick sight correction, we're ready for pellet number 2. And we are down in the 10 ring. I think I need to lower it just a little bit more. And shot number 3 is away. There we go. Not quite an X, but darn close. Again, good accuracy from the 760 Pump Master, even with the pellets. So how about when your child graduates to an actual firearm? You've worked with them with an air rifle, you've taught the basics of gun safety, basics of marksmanship. Now they're ready to step up to an actual cartridge firing rifle. The one that I selected was the Cricket 22, and part of the reason that I selected this is because the size was so perfect for my daughter. Actually, it's wrong for me to say I selected it. My wife actually bought this for my daughter at a gun show. My wife bought her first actual cartridge firing rifle, and again, we got it in pink. It's for a girl. I don't have a problem with that. It is a single shot rifle. It has an aperture sight in the rear. If I can bring it over here so you can see that. A post sight in the front. It is a single shot bolt action 22 rifle. And this was the one that my daughter first started to use with live ammunition cartridges. I'll do a little bit of shooting with this too. You can again see how it does on the bullseye target, and before it's all said and done, we'll do a little bit of shooting on reactive targets that would be appropriate for children. Loading the Cricket rifle could not be easier. You simply open the bolt, take 1 round of ammunition. This is a single shot rifle, so it will only hold 1 round at a time. Close the bolt, rotate it into position, and at this point, in order to fire the rifle, you have to pull back on the cocking piece here at the rear of the bolt. It will lock back, and when you squeeze the trigger, the rifle fires. The rifle does have an extractor, so after you fire it, you turn the bolt up, pull back on it, and as you just saw, it will extract and eject the fired casing. So now, let's take a shot or two and see how it does. And here we go, folks. We'll load it up, pull back on the cocking piece. Now, you can see how small this stock is, so for an adult to shoot this, it actually takes a little bit of work to get myself in here behind all this. And the shot's away. And I started off with one in the 10 ring, so I'm not going to complain too much about that. I'll fire out a few more, and we'll see where we end up. And we're ready for shot number 2. By the way, with this short barrel, I do have to use my reading glasses to try to see that sight. And for a full-grown adult, to try to get yourself in behind this thing and get your eye in the proper place for this rear sight is not very easy. Much easier for a small child to be able to do this. The trigger on the Cricket rifle is really very good as opposed to the Daisy. It's a fairly light trigger, so that's one thing you would have to work with your child and make sure they've got the rifle pointed in a safe direction and they're ready to fire. Basically, the sights are on target before they put their finger inside the trigger guard and start to squeeze the trigger. Well, the Cricket rifle is grouping them from 30 feet. Let's go back and try one more and we'll see what our 3-shot group looks like. And here's shot number 3 with the Cricket. And I finally broke the X-ring with one shot. Actually, that's pretty well inside the X-ring. Again, very accurate rifle for a small child. Also, as I said before, this is not the distance that you'd want to have a small child shoot. Have them up 10 feet, maybe even a little bit closer than that. So they are experiencing that success, they can see that good accuracy, and they're having a lot of fun. It's particularly fun when your child masters their shooting skills to the point you can start to use reactive targets. Kids love these kind of targets because it gives them instant feedback on their shooting, and it's just plain fun. You can use almost anything for reactive targets. You can use hard candy, you can use crackers, you can use, if you've got old rotten eggs, something like that. Anything that you can use outside that's not going to leave a mess, that's going to be anything anyone has to worry about, will work. I've got some targets down here that are made by Champion that are a lot of fun. They're a biodegradable material. When you shoot it, they just pretty much explode. So I'm going to see if I can hit a couple of them. Got a piece of it. That's more like it. And I saved one for the cricket, so we'll see if we can take one out with the 22. That had a little more oomph. Well folks, that's pretty much the video. I hope you enjoyed my little foray into the universe of pink rifles. It was a lot of fun. Now I'm going to have to go back, and I guess these things are going to go into storage until I get a granddaughter. Can't believe I just said that. I must have hit my head on something out here. In any regard, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions or comments, be sure to leave those below. And as always, till next time, hopefully with a child you love, good shooting. Bye-bye.